There is a bill making its way through the legislature, Senate Bill 1584. It is about public employees' merit hiring practices. In other words, it would only judge people on their credentials for a job. It would have nothing to do with anything in DEI, which I know has become a political phrase, but it has nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with sexual identity. It has nothing to do with race. It would be, are you qualified? Are you the best qualified for the job? Talking about this piece of legislation is the first-time guest on the show, Senate Majority Leader Senator Shamp. Thanks for doing this.
Good morning, Mike. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
So explain to me this piece of legislation. What exactly do you hope to accomplish, or what will be accomplished with its passage?
So, I'm a nurse, and I've spent years in the trenches, and I've learned one thing. Competence saves lives, not quotas. So this bill is simply about hiring the best and not checking boxes, right? The people of Arizona deserve a government that hires people based on their skills, their knowledge, qualification to perform the task, and ensure that we're served by the most qualified and most competent public employees because they're hired based on their merit.
And the pushback I know is going to be that in years past, I'm 57 years old, growing up, laws were changed, but that didn't mean hearts and minds were changed. And race-based hiring and people not getting jobs they were qualified for because of their skin color was a real thing. Then the movement from the LGBTQ community was they were being their sexual identity was held against them, and they weren't getting jobs they were qualified for. Do you believe we are far enough past those days that we will hire the most qualified people with a piece of legislation like this?
I believe we are, because I believe that we have come to a point where the society has realized that when we're focusing on diversity, we're actually discriminating, because we're picking winners and losers based on irrelevant traits, because true diversity comes from hiring the best no matter who they are. I mean, this doesn't touch any anti-discrimination laws. It actually doubles down on them, because it's about equality of opportunity and not equality of outcome. And that's a very big difference, because equality isn't a quota. It's a chance to shine. And this bill proves that.
And for the record, I agree with you. I think that this is a step in the right direction, because the negative side of those quotas is that there may be somebody that's very qualified for a position, but there will always be questions if they were hired for a quota or hired for qualifications, and this takes that question away.
It does. It absolutely does. Look, I've roped calves, I've started IVs, I've saved lives in many trauma situations, and I didn't get any of those gigs because I'm a female. I earned them. And that's the Arizona way. That's the American way. So, right now folks want to twist it about hiring as a social experiment, and they're more obsessed with these diversity stats. And I don't believe that's fairness. I believe it's favoritism dressed up as progress, and I don't agree with it, because it's favoritism isn't fairness, it's failure. And if somebody feels like that's the only reason they got their job, then that's not a good place to be either.
Where is this bill? How is it being received? Do you believe it? Is it going to pass in both chambers?
It has already passed out of the Senate. It is now, it's going to be heard in committee in March in the House. I believe it will pass out of the House. And I'm very hopeful that we get more bipartisan support in the House than we did in the Senate. The only arguments that anyone has come up with is the fact that people need to be able to, like, for example, me being a nurse, they said to me that, how can I take care of people when I don't understand their culture? And that they want to be able to talk with someone that understands their culture. And I got to tell you, Mike, I said it in committee, that offends me as a nurse, because I take a lot of pride in learning people's culture and providing cultural care that's, acceptable. There's lots of different beliefs that need to be taken into consideration when you're in the hospital with patients. And I pride myself on learning, knowing, and helping. And let's face it, compassion, it is a merit. And you need compassion to be a nurse. So that's kind of where it comes from. But when we're talking about the government and what the taxpayers are funding, they need to be funding the most qualified and the most competent public employees, because they're hired on their skills or their knowledge or their experience or their demonstrated ability to perform the essential duties of whatever job it is in the government in the state of Arizona.
The other part of that I would just to add on to what you're saying that I find insulting in those statements is that somehow without being mandated that these organizations, whether it's a government or it's a hospital group or whatever, wouldn't hire a diverse group of people based on qualifications, that they're only doing it because someone's making them do it, that they aren't looking for the most qualified, that they're looking for a specific race or a specific kind of person as opposed to the best qualified, and laws need to dictate that they do it differently. And I think that's, at this point in our society, that's a bit insulting too.
I don't disagree with you at all, Mike. I really don't. I think that it's time to keep Arizona a place where merit means something. Merit is not dead. It's been sidelined by an agenda, and it's time for it to come to an end. And it's about building a government that works efficiently and fairly for the people. I mean, I sent you the bill. There's not a lot to it. It's a definition and a requirement. And SB 1584 isn't flashy. It's just common sense. And I'm asking Arizonans to back it and to reach out to their elected officials and let them know to support this, because they want the best person for the job.
So in the end, though, you've got to get it onto the governor's desk, and if it passes in the House, it will. Will she sign it? Have you had any discussion with the governor's staff? Are they pushing back at all? Do you anticipate she'll sign it? Has she made any, have they talked to you about what will happen?
Absolutely not. There's been no conversations about this bill specifically, so I am hopeful that she will sign it because it's the right thing for the citizens of Arizona.
Do you anticipate a conversation? Because, you know, there's negotiations that go on, and you're a part of them. You're in leadership. Are there negotiations or conversations, or will there be with her office before it hits her desk?
Yes. I'm talking with them on different bills and different issues. It just this one hasn't been brought up, so we're waiting to see how it was received by the Democrats in the Senate and now in the House. And I'm curious to see if they actually start to realize that the citizens of Arizona want people hired based on merit, and then that is what will trigger them to support this legislation.
It's Senate Bill 1584. If you are a voter here in Arizona, you can reach out to your legislators on the House side now, because it's already passed the Senate, and see if that support can't be rallied. Senator, I appreciate you coming on, and what I'd like to invite you to do is give us more frequent updates on where we are in the legislative process, what's going through the budget as we get closer to those things happening. If you don't mind giving us an update, I'd love to have you on more often.
I would absolutely love that. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I could bring the majority report to you once a week.
I like that. I love
that. About all kinds of bills that are moving.
All right.
That'd be great. I would love to do that.
All right. Thank you, Senator. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Mike. You have a wonderful day.
All right. That is the Senate Majority Leader, Republican Senator Janae Shamp, joining us for a few moments to talk about this piece of legislation. Again, if you want to do your own homework, it's Senate Bill 1584.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.